7 haunting secrets of the corn maze revealed. What lurks in the shadows is bone-chilling. In Cedar Hollow, the annual fall festival brings out the best in the town, a rushing parade of families, all bundled up in plaid shirts and vibrant scarves, laughter swirling in the crisp air. But beneath the jovial surface of this cherished tradition lies a chilling truth. The corn maze, alive like an ancient beast, holds secrets that many whisper but few dare to believe. Twisted paths that seem to shift and turn, shadows that flicker at the edge of your vision, and stories handed down through generations, the kind that twisted through the fields like the very stalks that grow there, whispering of things not meant to be exposed. Everyone builds memories here, but do they really understand the dangers? Strange rustlings in the night. Flickering lights that reveal glances too fleeting to comprehend. Legends of those who ventured too deep, lost forever in the maze's grip. Little Lucy Smith, with her wild curls and adventurous heart, has heard it all. Don't stray too far, her mother warned, but Lucy, oh Lucy, she loved the thrill far too much for caution. Tonight, however, her happy giggles dissolve, the echoes swallowed by an eerie silence that sends shivers down the spines of those gathered. As darkness settles over Cedar Hollow, an unsettling tension creeps in. The Thompsons, a beloved farming family, feel the weight of the night heavier than ever. It's not just the lore that hangs over them, but a family history steeped in shadows. Jake Thompson, the fallen college football star, returned to find his place but now stands face to face with a past he thought he could outrun. His parents fix anxious, worried glances toward the maze. Haunted whispers cling to the air, thickening like fog. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Returning from the laughter that feels like a distant memory, the maze looms ominously against the night sky. Each towering stalk not only holds whispers of fears but also the murky history of the land. Bones, decades old, lying just beneath the earth, waiting for someone to dig them up, to give them a voice, a story. They share a sense of knowing, a collective weight held by the townsfolk, pressing down harder than ever, suffocating their camaraderie with dread. The crowd stands paralyzed as whispers of those lost trickle through the gathering. Jake, heart racing and pulse thrumming, instinctively steps forward, ready to rescue little Lucy and confront whatever dark truth hides in the darkness. Time feels suspended, fear electrifies the air. He is not just battling for his family's unity, but for every soul in Cedar Hollow. The rustling becomes louder, an ominous warning as the ground shifts beneath them. Shadows twist with every breath they take. What fate awaits them within the maze? Each step into the corn-filled labyrinth feels like an awakening, the past pulsating through the soil as they move deeper in. As the clock strikes midnight, the atmosphere thickens, suffused with unrelenting tension that tightens their throats and fills their eyes with dread. What will they uncover, and will they emerge from the darkened maze together, or will the shadows claim them too? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he plunged deeper into the maze. The whispers of Lucy's laughter felt like a fading echo, replaced by an eerie stillness that choked the air around him. He gripped the stalks, his knuckles white, trying to find the path that might lead him back to her. The moonlight barely penetrated through the thick canopy of corn above, casting ghostly shadows that danced just out of reach. "Lucy!" Jake called, his voice strained with desperation. It seemed to bounce back at him, warped and distorted, as if the maze itself was mocking his plea. Panic clawed at him, his mind racing with thoughts of what could happen if he couldn't find her. What if the maze consumed her like it had so many before? The rustling intensified, rising into a cacophony that drowned his thoughts. He pushed forward, feeling every stalk sap his energy, pulling him further into its twisted embrace. "Lucy!" He shouted again, but this time, he heard something else, a soft whimper, almost lost among the rustling. Hope flared momentarily, igniting his resolve. "Hang on, I'm coming!" he shouted, pushing through the dense maze. At the sound of his voice, the whimper turned to a cry, familiar and sweet yet tinged with fear. Jake felt his stomach drop. It was her. Lucy's cries echoed through the maze, leading him like a siren's call. He moved swiftly, following that desperate sound. Yet with each step, the air grew colder, more oppressive. The soil beneath him felt alive, the earth asking for something, as if it wanted to drag him down into its depths. Sweat dripped down his back, mingling with the mounting dread that knotted in his chest. "I can't let her down," he muttered under his breath. With a burst of energy he barreled forward, bursting through a wall of stalks to find a small clearing. Lucy stood there, wide-eyed and trembling, her curls framing a face streaked with dirt. Jake rushed toward her. "I've got you!" He wrapped his arms around her, relief flooding in as he held her close. But before they could turn back, a deep growl rumbled from within the darkness behind them, sending chills racing down his spine. Jake froze, his heart racing. The shadows shifted, morphing into something more tangible, something that shouldn't be there. "What was that?" Lucy whimpered against him, her tiny voice barely audible over the pounding in his ears. "I don't know," he lied, trying to maintain an air of calm. But the shaking in his hands betrayed him. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end as the shape elongated and twisted, emerging from the shadows. It had the outline of a figure humanoid but wrong, blending into the corn like a predator blending into tall grass. As it stepped forward, glimmers of moonlight reflected off its eyes, cold and hollow. Jake backed up slowly, pulling Lucy behind him. "We need to go back, now," he urged, his voice tight with terror. But the path they came from began to shift, changing before their eyes. The maze turned against them, the very earth shifting like a living being to trap them. Panic surged through him. "Hang on tight," he whispered to Lucy. Just as they turned to run, a low growl echoed through the maze, vibrating straight through Jake's core. He tore his gaze from the approaching figure, forced to focus on the chaotic paths, each twisting further from the exit. They stumbled into another corridor, heart racing. The fear sank deeper, every stitch of trust in the maze unraveled. "What do we do now?" Lucy asked, her voice trembling. Jake clenched his jaw, determination igniting amidst the dread. "We find a way out." The ground shifted again, swallowing a cry of despair into the depths. Moments felt like hours. Just ahead, a fork awaited. Right or left? Would one path lead to freedom, or deeper into the maze's lurking nightmares? The haunting silhouette loomed ever closer, and the choice had to be made fast. "Which way do we go?" he asked Lucy, the fear palpable. As her wide eyes scanned the paths, the growl rang out behind them again, echoing ominously. They had to decide. Right into darkness or left toward the unknown, each with a consequence that could change everything. "Right," Lucy gasped, pointing toward the left path, her small hand shaking. "We have to go left." Jake didn't hesitate, grabbing Lucy's hand and sprinting down the narrow corridor, the corn crunching underfoot. The growl behind them intensified, rumbling like hungry thunder, sending jolts of terror through his spine. Their only motivation was the thundering noise of whatever pursued them too close for comfort. Branches of corn trees swiped at Jake as they dashed. Shadows loomed overhead, twisting like wraiths in the dark. Each moment spent running felt like an eternity as he focused on the delicate grip of Lucy's hand, their fingers intertwined like lifelines. "Faster," he urged, though his legs burned from exertion. He could feel the cold breath of dread clawing at his back. With every step, he prayed they had made the right choice. Then a sharp turn came up. The ground tilted slightly, revealing an old wooden sign, half buried by dirt. "No turning back." It read in peeling red paint, and a chill surged through Jake. The warning felt all too real. What if the maze was really alive? What if it thrived on fear, feeding on the lost souls searching for escape? "Lucy, keep close!" he shouted. She nodded, eyes wide. Fear radiated from her. The growl sounded nearer, echoing through the thickets as if urging them to falter. They stumbled onto another clearing, but this one felt different. The air thickened, and an unsettling silence washed over them. Gone were the rustles of the maze. Even the dark energy lurking around appeared to hold its breath. "What is happening?" Lucy whispered, her voice barely a thread in the stillness. Jake pulled her closer. It didn't he feel right, something was wrong. Ahead, the path forked again, continuing to taunt them. "Left or right?" he asked, panic creeping back. "Choose." In that moment, the growl evolved into a low, wiry laugh that sliced through the silence. It wasn't just a sound, it was a chilling invitation. Lucy trembled, clutching at his shirt. "I don't want to play anymore." Neither did he. But there was no choice. He gazed down each path, and with dread pooling in his gut, he chose right, convinced that following the laughter led to something sinister. As they stepped into the right corridor, the atmosphere thickened again, heavy with malicious intent. Distant screams echoed through the intricacies of the maze, and the shadows twisted, darkening with malice. In front of them, an old scarecrow stood, its tattered clothing flapping in a non-existent breeze. It was more than just a simple figure. Its hollow eyes seemed to follow, staring directly at Jake and Lucy with a predatory hunger. They froze, realizing it wasn't just a decoration. The ground around its feet was scorched, weeds twisted into grotesque shapes, and the smell of decay lingered in the air. "What do we do?" Lucy whispered, panic bubbling to the surface again. "I don't know," Jake answered, feeling like a failure. "But if we keep moving, we can at least stay ahead of that thing." Suddenly, the corn stalks shivered, and thick tendrils snaked toward them from the ground. Jake's heart lurched as the eerie laughter returned, echoing through the maze like a symphony of despair. "Run!" he screamed, but the very earth seemed to tighten around their legs, dragging them into the night. They stumbled forward, desperately kicking against the roots entangling them. Each step was a battle against the overwhelming pressure of the maze, each heartbeat a reminder of their impending doom. But just ahead, Jake caught a glimpse of glimmering moonlight spilling onto what appeared to be an opening. Freedom waited, but at what cost? With all his strength, he pulled Lucy forward, an urgency filling the air. Whatever was chasing them wouldn't he let them get free easily. Just when they thought they could reach it, the laughter erupted into a frenzy, drowning out their breaths. Reality blurred as a figure surged into view, a visage of sheer horror. What had they awakened? With visions of twisted corn and anguished faces flashing before him, Jake tightened his grip on Lucy. The doorway seemed tantalizingly close, yet almost mocking as shadows writhed around them. "We're almost there," he yelled, but was it hope or a final deception? The cackle boomed madly, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. "You can't escape." In that moment, the truth dawned upon him. The maze stirred with malevolence, a living entity entrapping souls. Their only hope lay in a single question: could they unravel the secrets before the maze claimed them forever? And what had been unleashed within the darkness? Jake pulled Lucy closer, the tightening grip on her hand pushing him forward. The laughter swirled around them like a macabre breeze, each peal mingling with the pounding of their hearts. The figure materializing from the shadows was no longer a blur. It was fully formed, a gaunt silhouette with long, twisted limbs, and a grinning face that sent icy fingers crawling down his spine. "Keep moving," Jake urged, pushing aside the primal fears seizing his chest. They darted toward the glimmer of moonlight, but the figure seemed to melt back into the shadows, merging with the very essence of the maze. Its eyes, hollow and empty, promised torment if they failed to pass. "Jake, I can't," Lucy gasped, her breath coming in sharp bursts as she stumbled. He turned, his heart racing. "Lucy, just a little farther." The corn stalks trembled around them, as if the maze was aware of their desperation. Suddenly, the ground beneath them split apart, and a chasm opened, jagged and dark, rumbling with an ancient hunger. Jake barely caught Lucy before she tumbled into the abyss. "Hold on," he shouted, gripping her with everything he had. For a moment, they hung together on the edge of dread, suspended in time, breathless under the weight of fear. "Jake!" Lucy cried, tears streaming down her dirt-streaked cheeks. "I don't want to die here." "Neither do I," he yelled back, his own heart thumping like a war drum. With a surge of adrenaline, he hoisted her up. Together they leaped back onto solid ground, but the maze roared in rage, the peal of laughter now a cacophony echoing in Jake's mind. Run! He pulled her forward again, but the path twisted under their feet, the landscape warped and shifting, as though the maze was alive, reshaping itself in a chaotic dance of horror. Before them, shadows morphed into grotesque figures, faces melding with the scenery, their features impossibly contorted, eyes wide with horror that reflected Jake and Lucy's own terror. We have to find a way out. Jake screamed over the din, but deep down, he knew escape was but a thin thread woven into the fabric of hopelessness. Lucy's grip faltered, and for a fleeting moment, Jake glanced back toward the figures, each one drawing closer, mouths slinking into grins predatory and wide. Let us go this way. Lucy pointed toward an alcove nestled between towering cornstalks. The air felt charged with desperation as they ducked inside, where the light faded, leaving only a sliver casting ghostly shadows before them. Do you think we're safe? Lucy panted, her voice trembling as she leaned against the rough husk of corn. I don't know, Jake whispered, feeling the weight of their predicament crushing in around him. The dimness felt thick and suffocating as if the walls were closing like a beast ready to swallow them whole. Suddenly, the laughter subsided, replaced by a disembodied whisper that slithered through the maze, wrapping around them like smoke. Are you ready to play? It echoed, taunting, chilling Jake down to his very core. What does that mean? Lucy shivered at his side. What are we supposed to do? I think it wants something from us, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But what? Just then, the ground trembled, a deeper rumble resonating through the air, and an ancient voice emerged from the depths of the maze. To escape, you must confront the truth. The weight of comprehension hit Jake like a sledgehammer. The maze wasn't just a prison, it was their fears made manifest, each twist and turn echoing the darkest corners of their minds. If they wanted out, they had to face what lay within, confront the shadows they tried to hide from. But could they really find a way through? And what hidden costs awaited them in the heart of the maze? With resolve hardening, Jake turned to Lucy. We have to confront it together. As they stepped deeper into the darkness, a low rumble of laughter swelled around them once more, followed by a sinister echo that seemed to mock them. The shadows shifted ominously, and Jake's voice faltered as he whispered, "What lies ahead?" He couldn't shake the feeling that the real game was just beginning, the stakes higher than they had ever imagined. And the only question that haunted him now was whether they'd emerge unscathed, or if they would join the countless lost souls already entwined in the whispers of the maze. The air grew thick as Jake and Lucy ventured further into the alcove, the oppressive darkness swallowing them whole. Each step felt heavier, as if the very ground itself wanted them to turn back. Shadows danced along the walls, flickering in the sharp corners of their vision, teasing and provoking them to succumb to their fears. Do you hear that? Lucy whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence. It was an almost imperceptible whisper, hissing like the wind through dried leaves. Jake nodded, eyes scanning their surroundings. I think it's coming from over there. He pointed into the deeper void, a sense of dread pooling in his stomach. With every step, memories clawed at him, mounting like a tidal wave. Echoes of their past pulsed through the maze, feeding off their insecurities, their failures. Whatever we face in here, we have to remember we're not alone, Jake said, trying to sound brave. I'm with you, Lucy. But even as he spoke, doubt tightened around his heart. Suddenly, the soft rustle of movement broke the air. Jake's breath hitched. What was that? He asked, on high alert. A figure drifted into view. Their silhouette flickered like a candle flame in the heavy twilight. Jake! I can't see it clearly. Lucy's voice trembled, her grip on him tightening. As the figure emerged, clarity shot through his mind. It was a child, no older than 10, with bright eyes that shone even in the dark. The moment struck Jake with an unbearable sadness. He recognized the child Timmy, a boy from their neighborhood who vanished last fall. A search party had combed the area for days, but he had never been found. Timmy? Jake choked out, heart racing. The boy smiled a twisted, unsettling grin that did not match his haunted eyes. You shouldn't be here. But I can help you. Lucy recoiled, her face betraying fear and confusion. Help? Yes, just no. Jake interjected, shaking his head. Stay back. Inwardly, he wrestled with the heaviness of reality that unfurled before him. Timmy's disappearance was a tragedy that had shaken their community, a whisper of guilt lilting through Jake's mind. Did they know enough? Did they do enough? Why are you here? Jake asked, voice rough. Where's your family? They're in the maze, too, Timmy said, the grin widening again, as if reveling in their horror. You can't get out unless you know what you've done. Lucy gasped in shock, understanding coloring her features. It wants us to face what we've hidden. Jake's stomach dropped. He had wished for clarity in those search efforts, driven by guilt for not doing enough, but this was not what he expected. What did he need to confront? Why are you doing this? He demanded, though he couldn't shake the desire to understand. As the darkness loomed closer, each shadow wrapped around the truth, pushing them to reckon with it. Are you ready to play? Timmy chanted, his voice twisting, joining the chorus of laughter that once haunted their retreat. Jake. Lucy's eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed his hand tightly. We don't have to do this. We can find another way. But as Jake looked into the childless eyes, they were not just ledges of loss, they shone with a beckoning clarity. It was hard to breathe. The weight of his own guilt clawed deep. No, he whispered, we can't run anymore. Timmy's figure shifted, growing darker and more distended. The air became electric as the atmosphere swirled around them, a cyclone of emotions caught between dread and revelation. What will it take? Jake asked, his voice steadier now. Tell me what I have to do. The laughter crescendoed, fading like echoes of a long-lost past. Face the truth, the boy whispered, his form dissolving into the shadows. Before it's too late. The maze trembled, and Jake felt a presence bearing down on them, pressing for answers, demanding strength. Together, Lucy. We have to face it together, he breathed, the resolve filling him with a new purpose. As they stood at the precipice of their fears, uncertainty thickened around them. Would they find what they sought, or would the maze swallow them whole, leaving them? Just another whisper in the dark, the shifting shadows began to blur, forming a more tangible path ahead. Jake took a deep breath, teetering on the edge of truth. What will we uncover? And in that very moment, the ground trembled once more. There were doors to open, secrets to unearth. How deep would the truth cut, and would it cut deep enough to set them free? The ground shuddered violently, and Jake stumbled back, pulling Lucy with him. They steadied themselves, hearts racing, as whispers suddenly flooded the air around them, rising and falling like a distant chorus, threads of sorrow weaving into an unrecognizable melody. Jake! What's happening? Lucy yelled, her voice a mixture of terror and determination. Shadows twisted, warping into forms that shifted and morphed. For a moment, Jake thought he saw Timmy's smile again, urging them on, but the way shadows coiled around it felt malevolent. Stay strong, Jake murmured, though inside he felt anything but. The maze felt alive, an organism made of fear and secrets, and they were its prey. He started forward, dragging Lucy along, determined to find the source of the whispers. Do you think if we move deeper, we'll find answers? She asked, doubt lurking in the corners of her voice. We don't have a choice, Jake replied, steeling himself. We have to confront whatever this is. With each step, the air thickened, an unseen force pushing against their chests. The whispers became more distinct, tangled words revealing fragments of broken lives, a lost friendship, a betrayal, a promise left unfulfilled. Each one cut Jake and Lucy, exposing their fears and guilt, inadvertently unearthing memories they had desperately tried to bury. Jake! Lucy's voice jolted him back to the reality of their surroundings. A shadow darted past them, too quick to identify. What was that? He hissed, eyes wide. I don't know, but we're not alone. As if to confirm her words, a figure burst forth from the darkness. It was another child, older this time, maybe 12, eyes hollow like an empty shell. You can't escape! The figure shrieked, voice echoing against the walls of the maze. Please, we're not here to harm anyone, Lucy called out, but the child's laughter twisted the air, sending shivers down Jake's spine. The truth will find you, just like it found me, the child taunted, and with that, they melted back into the shadows. Fear became a palpable force dragging at their heels, but Jake breathed in deeply. We can't let them break us. We have to keep pushing forward. Just then, another figure emerged. Timmy's voice echoed from behind them. Do you see now? He asked, his tone eerily calm. What have you done? What do you mean? Jake shouted, desperation clawing at him. What do I have to face? Timmy pointed deeper into the maze. Find the truth, it's waiting. They shared a quick glance, steeling themselves against the rising tide of dread. A narrow passageway loomed before them, darker than the rest, as if it was a vein leading to the heart of the labyrinth. Here goes nothing, Jake said, taking Lucy's hand. The eerie quiet swallowed them as they stepped into the passageway, shadows looming like prison bars, ready to ensnare them. The moment they crossed the threshold, the walls flickered with movement. Faces emerged, ghostly figures caught in an eternal loop, each one pleading, crying, or howling. They all bore the unmistakable weight of anguish, hopelessly trapped in their grievances. Jake, this is insane! Lucy gasped, tears pooling in her eyes. We're not equipped to handle this, just keep moving, he urged, forcing himself to focus on the path ahead. We can't become part of their story. The next voice pierced through the cacophony, familiar and haunting. It was his mother. Jake, please. I need you to see, she whispered, her image flickering like a faulty light bulb. His heart raced. Mom? A vision of her, vibrant and full of life, rushed through him. The memories flooded back, times he had failed to listen, missed her calls for help. Each regret hit him like a sledgehammer. Was this what they were all here for, stemming from the aftermath of hurt, from moments he never thought mattered? Face all of it. Face it now, she implored. Jake felt himself faltering, shadowy figures creeping closer. No, but it was too late. The passageway began to close in on them, urgency pulsing through his veins. Lucy! We have to, and then, everything went black. The whispers transformed into screams, and fear wrapped tighter around them. What would they find when the darkness faded? Would they uncover their truths, or would the maze fully consume them, leaving nothing but echoes behind? Jake's heart pounded, a chaotic rhythm that drowned out the cacophony of whispers, swallowed by the suffocating darkness. Time felt suspended, each tick of a clock heavy with venomous anticipation. He grasped Lucy's hand tighter, searching for her reassuring warmth amid the overwhelming coldness enveloping them. Suddenly, the darkness shattered like glass, revealing flickers of dim light ahead. Shapes danced within it, scuttling and slithering, unsure but undeniable. It was a new maze, one born from a nightmarish memory, echoing Jake's moments of fear and regret. He could almost see his younger self, standing paralyzed before hard truths. Jake? The quiver in Lucy's voice gnawed at him. What's going on? I don't know, he replied, struggling to assemble the fragments of his thoughts. But I think we just walked into our own fears. With each cautious step, the memories unfurled, their roots tentacling into Jake's heart. A collage of whispered arguments, missed chances, and faces of those he loved filled the air. The anger, the sadness, the chilling realization of how easily they could all slip away. Do you think this is all about us? Lucy's question hung in the air, thick with the heaviness of their entwined fates. Before Jake could respond, a loud screech erupted from further down the passage. He tightened his grip on Lucy and charged forward, propelled by instinct more than logic. Footsteps shuffling, hurried, sinister accompanied them, breathing life into the monstrous shadows. The oppressive weight of something lurking pushed against his back, urging him to move faster, to escape this twisted garden of despair. I want to go home, Lucy cried out, her voice cracking. Just a little further, I swear, Jake shouted back, determination flowing through him like a pulse. The walls narrowed around them, as if the very maze itself had come alive, hungry to consume them. Through a sudden break in the tense atmosphere, they entered a wider chamber, illuminated by flickering lights that behaved like haunted fireflies. The air grew still. A figure stood at the edge of the light, the shadowy form twisting and shifting, making it impossible to identify. "Turn back!" it hissed, its voice crashing against the walls like waves of torment. "You mustn't remain here." "Who are you?" Jake demanded, instinctively stepping in front of Lucy. "What do you want?" With a sudden rush, the apparition lunged forward, taking on the shape of Timmy, his face twitching with pain. "You're too late. You'll see what you've done to us." "Timmy?" Jake's breath caught in his throat. But the figure was gone, fading into the ether, leaving behind a palpable absence filled with Jake's suffocating guilt. In a moment of clarity, he felt the weight of sorrow building within him, pushing against the walls of his heart. Another voice crackled through the darkness, one that rattled Jake's very core. "Face what you've buried. Only then will you be free." Jake glanced at Lucy, who stood frozen, the color draining from her face. "What does that mean?" "I don't know. But we have to confront it," he shot back, steps leading them deeper into the heart of the chamber, towards an archway steaming with confusion and dread. As they neared, the whispers transformed into familiar phrases, things he had long silenced in his mind. "You're not enough. You'll never be forgiven. You abandoned us." The truths lurked just beyond the threshold, glimmering like shards of a shattered mirror. Jake hesitated, heart pounding with memories begging to be confronted. "Jake. Please," Lucy urged, tugging him closer. "We can't let this crush us." "Yeah," he breathed, doubt clinging to him like fog. Would they find liberation or despair waiting for them on the other side? With a determined nod, Jake stepped into the archway, embracing the tapestry of pain and emotion that hung in the air. Then the ground trembled again, this time violently, as if the very labyrinth were rearranging itself for them. "Are you ready?" he asked Lucy, voice quaking. "No," she whispered, but her grip told another story. As the walls shuddered, the darkness swirled around them, pulling tighter like steel chains. What revelations awaited them on this next step? Were they prepared to bear the burden of their secrets, or would the maze seal its grip on their souls forever? The air thickened as Jake and Lucy crossed the threshold, an oppressive weight pressing down on them. Shadows danced at the edges of their vision, mocking their fear. A low growl reverberated through the chamber, like thunder rumbling in the distance, and Jake's heart raced. "Stay close," he murmured, but Lucy's grip was still strong, a lifeline tethering him to whatever sanity remained. They walked into a fog of memories, the atmosphere thick and palpable, as if the very essence of regret hung in the air. "What if we don't make it out?" Lucy whispered, her breath hitching. "Focus on me," Jake replied, forcing a steadiness he didn't feel. "We will face this together." Suddenly, images began to flash before them. Flickers of moments long buried, a birthday party gone wrong, a devastating fight, the last time Jake saw Timmy alive. Each memory cut deeper, like a knife twisting in an open wound. With each step, the whispers grew louder, tumbling over one another like a tidal wave of anguish. "Why didn't you save me?" one voice cried. "Why did you let me go?" another echoed. Jake staggered backward, instinctively pulling Lucy close. "They're just memories," he shouted, but his voice trembled with uncertainty. "We can't get lost in this." "Can you hear them?" Lucy replied, horror widening her eyes. "They need you to listen." The growl returned, louder now, a visceral reminder that something hunted them in this darkness. A shape coiled out of the mist like a serpent, its eyes glowing with malice. Panic surged within him. They were trapped in a scene that blended reality with nightmare. "Run!" Jake yelled, adrenaline kicking in. They turned, racing back towards the archway, but the shadows thickened, twisting into a wall that blocked their escape. "Jake!" Lucy cried, her voice raw with fear. "What do we do?" "Face it!" he shouted, swallowing his own fear. "We have to confront what lurks in the shadows." Gathering his courage, he turned to the monstrous figure. It morphed from mist into form, a twisted reflection of himself, eyes filled with pain and regret. You can't escape your past, it roared, the voice somehow echoing Jake's own. Shut up, Jake shouted, rage breaking through his fear. I am not you. The double smirked, leaning closer, and Jake felt the cold seep into his bones. You think you're free? The truth will swallow you whole. Each word slammed into him, setting off a storm of memories, unleashing a torrent of emotion he had tried to bury. He remembered turning away from Timmy, choosing indifference over confrontation. Years of guilt crashed over him like waves. No! I didn't abandon you, he shouted, voice rising over the cacophony. Lucy stood beside him, her presence radiating heat amidst the chill. Yes, you did, the dark figure hissed, skin shifting like shadows in the night, revealing flashes of pleading eyes that he couldn't look at directly. Can you carry the weight of their pain? Can you face the truth? Jake clenched his fists, every fiber of his being contested. Was he ready to acknowledge the depths of his regrets? Tears threatened to spill from Lucy's eyes, and he knew he had a choice: succumb or confront the truth. We have to believe we can break this cycle, he urged, turning to Lucy. Together, we can reclaim our lives. The ground shook beneath them, as if the labyrinth itself reacted to their resolve. The figure howled, the shriek piercing the air, shaking Jake to his core. What if we can't? Lucy's voice trembled, doubt creeping back in. We have to try. We owe it to them, Jake declared, adrenaline surging through him as he stepped toward the dark figure. The shadows began to swirl violently, and the chamber felt like it was ripping apart. Time to choose, the entity screamed, slashing through the air with a menacing hiss. Will you face what you've buried? Will you dare to reclaim your truth? With a sudden steely determination, Jake faced the darkness head-on, heart racing, the weight of their decisions pressing heavily against him. What awaited in this fateful choice? Could they emerge from the shadows as survivors, or would they be consumed whole? The air crackled with electricity, and the tunnel began to pulse. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing: time was running out. Lucy! He screamed, grip tightening around her hand. Whatever happens next, promise me we'll face it together. But as darkness enveloped them, a deep, rumbling laughter echoed through the space. Together or alone? The voice lingered, taunting them as the walls closed in, narrowing the path to the unknown. What awaited them on the brink of revelation? Jake's heart thundered in his chest as the laughter swirled around them, a sinister melody that plucked at his fears. The shadows thickened, wrapping around him like a vice, each pulse of darkness tightening his grip on Lucy. The air was charged, almost electric, and he felt a tremor ripple through the ground beneath their feet. Hold on! He yelled, his voice cutting through the malevolent mirth. The figure writhed, shifting back and forth, the torment in its eyes digging deeper into Jake's soul. Do you really think you can challenge your own creation? It sneered, elongating its shadows, intertwining them like a noose aimed to suffocate. Before Jake could answer, the chamber began to twist. Walls melted and morphed, revealing not just their past, but countless other faces and stories swallowed by despair. Each face resonated deeply within him, each tethered to moments he wished to forget. Why did you let me suffer? A voice echoed, rising above the chaos. Jake glanced at Lucy, her eyes brimming with tears, reflecting every flicker of pain they'd ever encountered. It sent a chill racing down his spine. We have to keep moving, he urged, nudging her forward. The past can't hold us if we don't let it. But just as they pressed on, jagged hands made of darkness reached out from the swirling shadows. They grasped at Lucy's ankles, tugging her toward the abyss. Jake! She gasped, panic creeping into her voice. Fight! Fight it, Lucy! He shouted, throwing himself to the ground beside her. He felt the icy claws clawing at his own skin as he anchored himself to her side. In that heart-stopping moment, as they wrestled against the pull of despair, Jake zeroed in on the figure towering above them. It wasn't he just a monster, it was the embodiment of every guilt, every regret. You have no power over us, he bellowed, planting his feet firmly against the ground. The entity snarled, its form quaking with rage. Denying your truth only strengthens me. Give in, and I will grant you peace. Lucy's breath shuddered beside him. What if that's what I want? She turned her face toward him, fear grappling with the exhaustion of the struggle. Lucy, listen to me. His eyes locked with hers, desperation bleeding through the cracks of his bravery. Peace isn't in surrendering, it's in facing it. We can't let it win, not now. With a guttural roar, Jake pushed against the weight of the shadow with everything he had, summoning the memories of love and joy that flashed amidst the darkness. Images of Timmy laughing, birthday candles flickering, and moments of friendship began to swirl around them, blending into an aura of light that fought against the shadow's insidious grip. Let our light drown out this darkness, he shouted, every ounce of emotion pouring into his voice. The shadows recoiled, but the figure lunged forward, vibrant with malice. You can't escape. I am part of you. It screamed, its form flickering in and out of reality like a glitch in a broken mirror. Just as the darkness leapt to claim them, Lucy found her voice, raw and powerful. No! We choose to remember the love, the laughter. You do not own us. In that moment, Jake felt something surge within him, a warmth that coursed through him like molten gold. Light erupted, piercing through the thick black mists, shattering the entity's stranglehold. As the shadows shrieked in fury, Jake and Lucy pressed forward, their hearts racing with newfound hope and determination. The walls of the chamber trembled, forming a new path as they charged ahead, dragging light into the darkness. But just when escape seemed within reach, the laughter returned, louder and more menacing than before. The shadows rallied, swirling with renewed ferocity. Do you really think you've won? This is just the beginning. Jake felt his pulse quicken. There was no turning back now. They faced this maze of memories, tethered to each other by honesty and courage. But what if the truth they sought was even darker than their worst fears? As they raced towards the light, dread crept back in, clawing at their resolve. What secrets awaited them? Beyond the veil of the familiar? Would they emerge whole, or would this battle expose wounds that could never heal? Lucy's voice faltered, a sense of looming dread settling over them once more. Keep going, he urged, pushing through the darkness, but each step felt heavier, an oppressive presence following them, whispering from the depths. What lay ahead in the unknown? Would they discover secrets meant to stay buried, or would they finally confront the darkness that haunted them? As they plunged deeper, the air thickening with anticipation, one urgent thought intertwined between them: this fight was far from over. Jake and Lucy plunged deeper into the heart of the maze, shadows swirling violently around them. Each step they took was a battle against the fear clutching at their hearts. The twisted path ahead glimmered faintly with a light that felt impossibly far away. They had fought so hard already, and they couldn't let this labyrinth claim them too. Stay strong, remember what we're fighting for, Jake shouted, his voice echoing back at them like a war cry. With Lucy's hand held tightly in his, he pushed forward. The entity's laughter rang out, taunting them from the dark. You think you can escape? You think you can hide? The corridor ahead flickered ominously, filled with phantoms of the past. Faces of lost friends, missed opportunities, and simmering regrets twisted in the shadows, whispering accusations wrapped in deep sorrow. Why did you let us down? They echoed, simultaneously ghostly and familiar. Keep moving, Jake urged, his heart racing as the sounds of heartache surged around them. They had relived so much already. It was time to confront it once and for all. We have to turn it around and face the truth. Just ahead, the light flickered unexpectedly brighter, illuminating a clearing that felt alive with tension. Jake felt a sudden stillness, like the calm just before a storm. What if we don't make it? Lucy asked, shaking but resolute. He saw fear wash over her face like an approaching tidal wave, threatening to drown her spirit. We will make it, Jake replied, gritting his teeth against the fear churning in his gut. It was a promise whispered between them. They were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every lost soul that the maze had claimed. Suddenly, The growl returned, closer and sharper, rising from the depths of despair, and the shadows twisted, revealing the nightmarish form of the entity. It loomed larger than ever, a harbinger of all their fears, its hollow eyes glowing with malice. "You cannot escape your own darkness," it screamed, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. "Together!" Jake yelled, squeezing Lucy's hand tightly. "We can't let it win!" With renewed adrenaline, they charged toward the light, hearts pounding in unison. As they ran, Jake felt a strange energy building around them, an invisible force that pushed them away from despair and pulled them toward hope. As they rushed into the light, Lucy gasped. "Jake! Look!" Across the clearing stood another figure, a familiar form with arms outstretched. It was Timmy, his smile bright even against the backdrop of darkness. "You found me!" he exclaimed, pure joy radiating from him despite the shadows encircling them. "What? How?" Jake stammered, feeling the weight of sorrow evaporate as radiant warmth filled the air. "By facing what you buried. It's time to forgive yourselves, Jake. Let go of your guilt, your fears." Timmy's words spread like wildfire in Jake and Lucy's hearts. The labyrinth seemed to tremble, shadows recoiling at the brightness that emanated from Timmy's being. "I'm so sorry," Jake whispered, tears pooling in his eyes. "I couldn't save you." "Sometimes saving is not about fixing what's broken. It's about faith," Timmy explained, his voice gentle like a summer breeze, yet echoing with authority. "Love and courage are stronger than the darkest fears." Jake felt each word uplift them like a beacon. The shadows writhed in fury but struggled against the brilliance growing around them. "This isn't your only chance. You are more than your past," Timmy shouted, the shadows flaring wildly at his declaration. With that, something within Jake shifted. He felt a wave of understanding wash over him. Facing his fears did not mean carrying them alone. He turned to Lucy, her eyes shimmering, filled with belief and fire. "Together!" they shouted, raising their hands. The light they conjured surged forth, a brilliant force blasting through the maze. The entity roared in anger as if the very fabric of the shadows was ripping apart, threads of darkness detaching and vanishing into thin air. Each visage of pain they had confronted faded, leaving only echoes behind. The realization dawned. They were no longer victims of the maze. They were its conquerors. Courage welled up within them, and together they unleashed the brightest light they could muster. The shadows howled in despair as the light enveloped them, pulling them free from the maze's grip. With one final push, Jake felt the air shift, and they stumbled into a wide-open space, a vast field illuminated by starlight. The maze disintegrated behind them like the fading remnants of a nightmare. They stood together, hand in hand, breathing in the freedom of the open sky. "Did we really do it?" Lucy whispered, disbelief coloring her words. "Yes," Jake shouted with joy, shock blending into laughter as they turned to look behind. What had once been a dark, twisted maze now lay in ruin, its shadows scattered like whispers forgotten in the wind. Timmy's form shimmered for a brief moment before fading into light, leaving behind a warm memory of hope. "You're free," his voice carried softly, wrapping around them like a gentle hug. With the weight of their past finally lifted, Jake and Lucy embraced, tears mingling with laughter as the night spread wide before them filled with stars. They had faced their demons and emerged victorious, hand in hand, ready to embrace a tomorrow wrapped in unbroken promise. "Never again will we let shadows rule us," Jake vowed, their hearts lightened by redemption. As dawn began to crest on the horizon, they knew they had a new journey ahead, one forged by courage, truth, and unbreakable bonds. And with that, our story closes, reminding us all that facing the darkness is not the end but the beginning of truly living. Now, if you felt this journey, and if you believe in the power of facing fears, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your wild reactions and theories about this twisty ending. And don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show that you're a true fan who understands the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second.